So why is the empire so committed to stopping Elon Musk from acquiring Twitter? Is it simply a freedom of speech fight, or is there more to it? Well, I live by the old adage, follow the money. And I'm going to show you folks how this fight is all about the money. Yes, freedom of speech is important, but those who want to make the money want to control that speech. Okay, let's flash back to November of 2020. At that time, the New York Post had reported that BlackRock, run by Larry Fink with $7 trillion in holdings, was going to basically replace Goldman Sachs inside the White House, given that two BlackRock executives were joining the Biden economic team. One of them was Brian Deese, who now heads the National Economic Council. His agenda is climate policy and environmental social governance. For those of you who don't know what that means, that is the opposite of value investing and doing what makes sense. Instead, having businesses focus on how each decision they make impacts the environment, as well as social issues of the day, gender equality, transgenderism, you name it. In March, the SEC, the Securities Exchange Commission, unveiled climate proposed disclosure rules, making it enforcing publicly traded companies to have to abide by these new proposals that were coming. So they basically started pushing all things ESG. We know that BlackRock likes ESG. We know this because BlackRock's Deese works in the White House, and Biden's SEC starts pushing this ESG that BlackRock likes. Now, the question has to be asked is, why is BlackRock wanting to push the Green New Deal, global warming narrative? Like, why? What's in it for them? Well, the Financial Times reported on March 16, 2022, in a little coincidence, BlackRock to move $1.4 billion in a corporate bond ETF to an ESG index. In layman's terms, folks, that just means that BlackRock's going to make a whole shit pile of money off ESG and global warming hysteria being pushed by the Biden White House and former BlackRock executives working within said White House. Now, I know it sounds kind of crazy, like this conspiracy theory. Follow along with me. What if BlackRock, which is making money off ESG, has connections in the White House through former executives, who is now using the White House's enforcement arm through the SEC to force companies to buy into this stuff? You would say, that's kind of a crazy conspiracy theory. I mean, why? BlackRock, they wouldn't be doing that. When have they ever said that? Glad you asked. Larry Fink is captured digitally making statements such as, at BlackRock, we are forcing behaviors. So yes, BlackRock can force behaviors with their sheer size and the amount of capital they possess, but they still need a little old thing called government to force companies to comply. Now, BlackRock benefits, BlackRock guy inside the White House pushes what benefits BlackRock. BlackRock says and acknowledges publicly their underlying motivation. Fine, you're with me so far. You're like, okay, can that make sense? Hey, tale as old as time. But how's Twitter tied to any of this? Well, how do you get folks to commit energy suicide? How do you get them to voluntarily go along with high gas and energy costs? Well, you have to gaslight those folks into believing that the climate is done for. And if they don't do something immediately, like in the next 60 seconds, it's all game over. So high energy costs must be sold as something that are good for the planet. And if you're a good citizen, you want to save the planet, right? Sounds familiar? You have to create an alternate reality. And in this reality, you have to lie, and you have to lie often, you have to lie it well, and you have to do it confidently. The hallmarks of any good grifter. You have to divorce people from the truth. Buy into that the only way to fix the climate crisis is to swallow high energy prices. Yes, traditional sources would lead to lower prices, oil, coal, natural gas, and nuclear, but bad for the environment. So shame on you for not wanting to do your part and subsidizing wind, solar, and other forms. Now, the best way to do this is to ensure that you don't hear anything but the narrative you're selling. You know, folks like BlackRock, Larry, Biden, and Deese, what they're selling. Not an energy suicide plan, which will only leave a select few, Larry and his friends, wealthier and the rest of us a lot poorer. Nobody would buy into that if we knew that that was the end game. So what does all this have to do with Elon and the Twitter fight? Well, go to Investopedia. put in major shareholders in Twitter. And voila, number 4 is BlackRock. 52 million shares of Twitter, 6.5% stake in the company. Now, what's that got to do with ESG? ESG, which they're banking on making them a whole lot richer. Well, in another rather odd coincidence, the USA Today ran an article back in 2021 that said, Twitter will promote credible information with new climate change topic after criticism over misinformation. Okay, so let me get this right. Twitter, which BlackRock owns over 6% of, is now going to be a vehicle to gaslight folks from the truth surrounding global warming and promoting only what they consider credible information. In other words, global warming porn. In some circles, Twitter would be considered a tool for making folks in BlackRock who've invested in ESG and some of those who now work in the White House, making them all very wealthy in terms of money and power. If you're one of these fine folks, you wouldn't want Twitter to fall into the wrong hands, would you? This is how the game works. Politico ran an article recently commenting on how the ESG is weighing in on this recent move by Elon. So Biden's now using the SEC to protect his pals in the clubhouse. See how this company has its tentacles in the halls of power. Okay, hopefully this makes a little more sense, and now you can see why the poison pill has been implemented by the board. So if Elon or anyone else buys more than 15%, shareholders have the option to buy more shares at a discounted price. Elon has 10% now. If they create more stock, he'll own a lower percentage, so less control dilutes his ownership. Effort is to get Elon out. Why? As I mentioned already, you need these folks, you need this medium to gaslight people. And this fight is more than just about free speech. It's about money. Anyway, thanks for watching. I do appreciate it. Please post any comments you have in the comment section. You can also follow me on my Rumble and my Locals account, and I will see you next time.